Welcome to Missouri Sports Talk. I'm your host, Cameron Staley, and today I'm back with Brutus, third episode on. So let's just jump straight to it. How about that? Let's go ahead and look at the Missouri scoreboard. All right, so, first you just want to mention Mizzou wins 51-0. That is a pretty big game. I predicted Kansas to win by 23, predicted Mizzou to win by 28. Both teams win by a lot more than that. I predicted Wayne State to win, not that big. And I did predict Montana to win by 10. They end up winning by 5. And the last two, I did get these wrong. New Mexico State hosted SEMO. I predicted SEMO to win, I want to say by 5. Yeah, by 5. New Mexico State ends up winning by 7. I think Paxton DeLorme ended up having like a game-losing interception. So, I expect SEMO to bounce back this coming week, but I guess we'll see. And our last one for the Missouri scoreboard for last week, Minnesota State on the road against Northwest Missouri State. Northwest ends up losing this game by 14 points. The defense lets up 36. Now, Minnesota State is a good team, but I really didn't think that they're this good. So, that one's an interesting one to me. If we go to the SEC scoreboard, you see two blowouts at the very top. Oklahoma State ends up winning by 48 points. I picked them by 34. And Georgia ends up winning by 31. I had them by 8 in that game. That was actually our SEC game of the week. So, that one was not close whatsoever. Miami ends up winning 41-17. I picked them to win. The Crimson Tide ended up winning 63-0. And I want to say that Ole Miss dropped 70 on Furman. So, and obviously I don't have them on the SEC scoreboard, but the last two there at the bottom, Notre Dame, I actually had them winning by 10 points, and they won by 10. They ended up winning 23-13 in Texas A&M, in College Station, I should say, at Texas A&M. Big game, it was honestly a snooze fest. I didn't really get to watch it because I was at work. And then the Sunday night game ended up being USC and LSU. Obviously, there's probably not going to be very many Sunday night games for the rest of the year. But USC and LSU end up falling on it that night. I picked LSU by 13. They end up losing by 7. Miller Moss looked really good, USC's quarterback. I think that they'll have an okay year. I want to say that they ended up going to like 13 or 14 in the rankings, somewhere around that. So USC's in a good spot right now. I'm not certain that they're going to make the playoffs, though. Don't quote me on that, though. I guess we'll see. If we go to the top 25 scoreboard, let's just talk about the one in the top left right away. I had this one as an upset. West Virginia was at home against Penn State. This one ended up going into rain delay. It started at 11 Central, and the game ended at I want to say it was 4:30. So, it was like an hour and a half or 2 hour rain delay in that one. Ohio State ends up blowing out Akron 52-6. Big game. I expected that. I had Ohio State by 48. So they ended up winning by 46. Yeah. And then, Oregon and Idaho, if we just stay on the left side, Oregon ends up winning by 10 points. That one really surprised me. I had them winning by 52 in this one. I really don't know what happened there. Dylan Gabriel ended up having an insane amount of yards. They just couldn't get anything done. And, I found that really interesting. If we go to the right side, Oklahoma State versus South Dakota State. I had this one as a top 25 game of the week. I thought that South Dakota State would look a little better in this game. They end up actually holding their number one spot, even though they lose 44-20. Oklahoma State is a really good team, though. So, I just went with a little guess there. I didn't really think that South Dakota State was going to win. I was just really hoping they would, and then I'd have that pick, and I'd be that guy. But Michigan ends up beating Fresno State by 20 points. I had that one absolutely correct there as well. I had Michigan by 20, so there was 2 games this week that I had the exact point correct. So it ended up going basically exactly how I said it would. Fresno State was kind of giving Michigan fits out of the locker room. I want to say it was 10-3 going into halftime, and then at one point I want to say it was 13-10. Michigan was up in the fourth quarter, and then they score 17 unanswered, end up winning 30-10. Exactly what I said. I said that they'd run away with it in the second half. Ends up being right. And one that I'm not very proud about to end off our predictions from last week, Boston College going to Florida State, going to Tallahassee, and getting it done, 28-13. Florida State looks terrible this year. They look so bad. And I think it's more like DJ, I don't know. He started the game 0 for 5 throwing past the line of scrimmage, which, you're the quarterback. You shouldn't be doing that. So, I don't know if I should read into this as Georgia Tech and Boston College being really solid teams this year, or if Florida State just really, really sucks, or both. I think Georgia Tech actually ended up making it to the AP poll rankings. Boston College is second or third in receiving votes, so if they get another win or two, they might end up seeing themselves in the top 25. So, Florida State's played two okay teams. They kind of get their recognition kind of boosted a little bit more because Florida State was a top 10 team. Now they have dropped out of the rankings. It's very apparent that they are not a top 25 team, but they're at 10. So, I guess we'll see what comes for Florida State. Realistically, if you're sitting here looking at the rest of their schedule, watching them go 0-2, you'd think that they may end up being 6-6 or 7-5, but I guess we'll see if they can put anything together. I feel like it's a surefire loss to Notre Dame though. So if they end up really, really turning it around after this week, I think the best that they could do, the absolute best that they could do this year is 9-3, no better. But I really don't see them doing that. I think if I were to give an official prediction now going into the season, I said 10-2 or 11-1. I really thought that this team was going to be all right. DJ played really good at Oregon State, but then something just happened. And, if I were to give an official prediction, I'm probably going to say 7-5. So let's go ahead and get to our predictions for this week. This one's not going to be a super long video. I didn't receive any word from the guy that was supposed to be doing college videos with me. Not sure if he's going to do any of them with me. It may be Brutus for Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I guess we'll see. That's besides the point. Let's get to the Missouri scoreboard. On your screen, you see Mizzou and Buffalo at the top. I don't think this game's going to be close. I'm just going to go with Mizzou by 32 in this one. I predicted them to go soft against Murray State and win by 28. That didn't end up happening. It was 51. So I am going to take 32 in this one. Buffalo's a step ahead of Murray State, obviously, but I do think that they'll do pretty good in this game. If we go to the bottom left, Northwest going on the road to Nebraska Kearney. I'm not very familiar with Nebraska Kearney's team. I am going to go with Northwest by 23 in this one. Staying on the bottom row, Missouri Western traveling to Fort Hays State. Also another team that I'm not very familiar with. I'm going to take Missouri Western by 12 in this one. If we go one above that, Central Arkansas, I want to say that they're top 10. They are at least top 25 in the nation in FCS. They're playing Lindenwood. I really don't think that this game's going to be very close. I'm going to take Central Arkansas beating Lindenwood by 19 in this one. What else? Ball State is hosting Missouri State. Now, Missouri State is moving up to FBS next year, but I really just don't think that they're at that level, and it'll show against Ball State when they travel there. I'm going to take Ball State by 8 in this one. Missouri State's got a really good team this year. I just don't think that they're FBS ready, and, it'll take a few years before they're really successful. And, the last one, this one is definitely the Missouri game of the week. It's got to be SEMO hosting UT Martin. This one could be fireworks. I feel like UT Martin really didn't get to show what they're all about against Kansas State because Kansas State's a really good team this year. So they got killed, in Manhattan. So I think that SEMO coming off of a loss against New Mexico State, they're going to have a lot to prove. I'm going to take SEMO by 14 points in this one. Let's go ahead and get to the SEC scoreboard. Top left, Oklahoma against Houston. Not going to be a close game. I'm going to take Oklahoma by 38. Next one, another blowout that I see. Although North Carolina State is ranked, I'm going to take the Volunteers by 24 in this one. If we go right below that, Alabama hosting South Florida. This is kind of going to be shades of the Western Kentucky game last week. I'm going to take Alabama by 47 in this one. And then right next to it on the scoreboard, Mississippi State versus Arizona State. The Sun Devils really surprised me last week, beating Wyoming by like 40-something. It was a crazy game. I really thought that Wyoming was better and Arizona was worse. I would have almost said that Wyoming was going to win that game, and it was not close whatsoever. But, SEC talent against Arizona State, even with Arizona State hosting, I'm going to take Mississippi State in this one. My points that I have here, I have the Bulldogs by 12. Kentucky against South Carolina. This one's an interesting one. I don't think that South Carolina is very good this year. They did get the win week 1, but it was against a pretty small school, and it was somewhat close. It was closer than it should have been. I'm going to take Kentucky by 20 in this one. And our SEC game of the week, possibly even top 25 game of the week, but I did add it to the SEC scoreboard. Michigan is hosting Texas. This is a big one. Michigan got tested by Fresno State last week. Obviously, we talked about it. Texas blew out Colorado State. I want to say it was like 54-0, and that's a Mountain West school. That's the 5th best conference that there is right now. And, Colorado State's supposed to be an okay team this year, but, Texas ends up winning by over 50 points. I think that Texas can go to Ann Arbor and get this one done. I'm going to take Texas by 6. I think that the defense for Michigan will keep them in it. If I were to put a point total on it, I'd say that this is going to be a somewhat low-scoring game. Give me 24-18. How about that? I'll give you 24-18. I doubt that's going to be the score, but I am going to take Texas by 6 points. Let's go ahead and get to the top 25 scoreboard. You see top left right now, Illinois is hosting Kansas. I really do not like Kansas. They're my least favorite team around, but I do think that they end up getting this one done. I'm going to take Kansas by 8 points. Ohio State and Western Michigan right below that. Obviously going to be another blowout. Give me the Buckeyes by 44. Oklahoma State and Arkansas. This one's going to be a really fun game. I'm not sure what to expect of it, but I do think the way that Oklahoma State looked last week, they're going to show Arkansas that they're not as good as they played against Arkansas Pine Bluff. I'm going to take Oklahoma State by 22 points in this one. Next, Utah against Baylor. This is Utah's Big 12 debut. Sorry, I didn't get much sleep last night. My brain's not working too well. I'm going to take Utah by 27. Yeah, I wrote down 27 in this one. Baylor is not that great of a team. Utah is a good team. I want to say that they're 11th in the AP poll right now, so not going to be a close game. Give me Utah in their Big 12 debut by 27. Oregon against Boise State. This one's an interesting one. Boise State defense did not look great. They gave up 30-something to Georgia State. Yeah, Georgia State. It wasn't Georgia Southern. Or no. No, it was Georgia Southern because Georgia State's the Panthers. So Boise State against Georgia Southern last week. Boise State ended up scoring high 50s, and then Georgia Southern was in the high 30s. So, Boise ends up winning by like 20. The offense looks crazy. Ashton Jonty, he's probably going to go in like the second round. Great running back for Boise. And Oregon State looked bad. They won 24-14. The yards were there, but the offensive line is god-awful this year. I'm going to take Oregon sneaking by 4 points in this game. I think it's going to be closer than people expect. And obviously, the top 25 game of the week, it's got to be Iowa versus Iowa State. This one is very interesting. Iowa's offense is not good, but for some reason, in the second half last week against Illinois State, something just clicked and their wide receivers scored touchdowns for the first time in like forever. Like I want to say last year there was two wide receiver touchdowns total the whole entire year, and then they had 3 in that game. So they already beat their whole entire last year's wide receiver touchdown total in one game. I think Iowa State does get this one done, though. I think Iowa State ends up winning this game by 3 points. It's going to be an interesting one, though. So I guess we'll see how this one goes. This is probably a pretty quick video. I want to say it's probably around 14 or 15. Hopefully I'll have a guest next time. But I guess we'll see. Please subscribe. We're sitting around, I want to say just below 84% still unsubscribed. That would be greatly appreciated. Tomorrow, obviously, NFL, Thursday, high school, and then Friday will be the upload of our high school football game. So stay tuned for that. This has been Missouri Sports Talk. We'll see you next time.